Well, Quinn, what do you think? Today our incumbent mayor came out with an announcement that he's got, what was it, 20 people roughly, big, supposedly quote-unquote big names backing him?
Yeah, I think it was closer to 30. But yeah, it's an exploratory committee that he's got going on.
Well, let me ask you this. First, I got questions for you here. First of all, did John Skipper ever make any attempt whatsoever to call you today?
No.
Okay. So they run this story, and they mentioned your name, but they never called you for a reaction.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so nothing from the Globe.
Nope.
B, part 2, or question 2. And answer this however you feel, but this is what come to my mind. What does Eric Bookmeyer need an exploratory committee for? And let me frame this for you. He's an incumbent mayor. He's got quite a record behind him of whatever he wants to call his record. All these people backed him in the past. They've probably given, I would venture a guess that they've given money in the past to his first campaign. What's there to explore? Why don't they just come out and say we're backing him for re-election and he's running? What is there to explore, Quinn?
In my opinion, I'm not really sure. As an incumbent, I mean, you shouldn't have to have some sort of exploratory committee, especially when you're running for local office.
Well, we noticed recently that the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, formed an exploratory committee to run for Senate, the U.S. Senate. That's a big jump up. That's that's an obvious need there for an exploratory committee. But an incumbent mayor that's already been in office 3.8 years roughly here, and already has a record behind him. I just find that strange that they would need an exploratory committee for that.
Yeah, I find it kind of silly personally. I mean, from my perspective as a candidate for mayor, I look at it two different ways. One, there's the intimidation factor.
Okay, tell me what that is.
Well, he's basically got the Chamber of Commerce here in Mason City. He's saying, hey, these guys all like me. Mm-hmm. So you should too. They're all names in the community that a lot of people are familiar with.
Are you saying that he's discouraging others from running, and he's trying to discourage someone like yourself that's already declared that they're going to run?
I'm saying that that's possible.
Okay.
That's one perspective to look at it.
Okay.
I obviously don't think it's necessary as an incumbent to even, launch an exploratory committee. I think that's ridiculous. And especially one of such a large group of people,
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, that's not a committee, that's a Congress.
Yeah. And I assume you've taken a somewhat close look at the list. I know the list just came out. I noticed some of the names were misspelled and, kind of riddled with mistakes here and there. I don't know who Heidi Marquardt with an RT on the end is. I've never heard of that person in my life. But maybe John Skipper has, and he knows something I don't, which would be rare. But one must ask oneself, what do these people have to gain by putting Bookmeyer back on the as mayor?
Well, he's got a history of, at least from my perspective, backing initiatives that don't really support the whole of Mason City. Things like the statues. I'll use those as an example.
Okay.
$45,000 plus. I don't think anybody knows the actual numbers behind it.
We'll never know how much it really cost the taxpayers of Mason City, Quinn, because we know it was 45, but we'll never know how much time our employees put in, how much materials of various materials.
There's labor to factor in. There's upkeep. There's one of them had been destroyed.
Yep.
Just outside the mall plaza.
Certainly.
And then they added more.
Yep.
Okay, where were we?
Well, we were discussing you were using the sculptures or the downtown sculptures as an example of expenditures the city has made where we'll never truly know. And another one, of course, you were going to mention would be blue zones.
The blue zone. That's that's another issue that I have mixed feelings on. One, where it's kind of makes you feel good,
Mm-hmm.
but the other is, once again, the taxpayer money that's going into this. I've seen advertisements on Facebook, as a small business owner at one time.
Right.
I know how much that can cost.
Right.
And there's going to be future costs for that. If we're going to keep Mason City as a blue zone committee.
Certainly. Well, we've already seen the cost of concrete painting skyrocket due to the blue zones. Painting of bike lanes is going to cost the city thousands and thousands more every year to not only paint them the first time this year, but then to upkeep those year after year. That's a hidden cost.
Yeah, that's one thing that a lot of people don't consider.
And I'm all about bike lanes, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
I'm just saying
our
that
park system in
right.
Mason City is top notch.
Certainly.
There's no doubt about that. That's one of our greatest
city
assets.
staff does a good job, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The parks are typically clean all the time. The bathrooms are well kept most of the time.
Certainly.
They put a lot of hard work and effort into keeping Mason City green.
Certainly.
And to do that work.
So you're a supporter of city staff, obviously.
Obviously, yeah.
So tell us, Quinn, now that Mr. Bookmeyer has made his announcement today, if you would like to call it that. How is your campaign going? What's your next plan? What's your next move? You got in first. You're the first man to jump in the race here. What's next for Quinn Symonds?
Well, I'm a normal guy. I've
single parent, right?
Yeah, single parent. Recently laid off.
And relocated for your home, correct?
If you want to call it a relocation, I'd like to call it closer to an illegal eviction.
Okay. But irregardless, you're in a new home. You're in between jobs at this moment. You're a single parent. You've run for office before. You're not total green to this. Certainly.
I've got that experience behind me. And
are you putting together some type of committee at all? Are you putting together a list of backers, or what do you got going right now?
I have a small committee.
Okay.
Very small committee. There's about 5 or 6 of us. I don't need 30 people to tell me, whether or not I should run for mayor.
Well, you've already decided you're going to run, so you don't need to explore the issue, did you? Was it a difficult decision, Quinn? Did you have to have 30 people come and give you advice on it, or
no?
You didn't need 20 or 30 people to come
I didn't need anybody to tell me.
You didn't need to go check with the Chamber of Commerce for permission or anything like that. Make sure it was okay with Robin Anderson, someone like that, huh?
Yeah, absolutely not.
I say that tongue in cheek, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, there's.
So you are your own man, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
You're not someone's lackey.
No, I'm running for the people of Mason City.
Well, that's good to know.
My campaign is as much about diversity as it is perspective, and I think that that's something that the incumbent certainly lacks. Now, that's not a personal attack; that's just an observation.
Certainly.
You can look at his committee and figure that one out for yourself.
Right. I guess I would have to go back and look more closely, but I don't know if there was much ethnic diversity on that so-called committee, exploratory committee.
There's lawyers, business owners, zoning commission. There's diversity, but not necessarily on the level of what.
So you have accomplished people on this committee. Telling someone that hasn't accomplished a whole lot himself on this, giving them advice, perhaps. And that's me saying this, not you, by the way. But
yeah, absolutely.
That's I guess I shouldn't interject my opinion quite so much, but
No, I mean, like I said, when I first, realized and read this article of close to 30 names, like I said, my first thoughts were, should I be intimidated or should I be flattered? And, quite honestly, I choose the latter.
That's a positive approach, and maybe that is a message to you to back off or to maybe kind of give up a little bit. Maybe there's a subliminal. There's also rumor out there, Quinn, just to throw this out there, that Bookmeyer released this list to keep other people or to discourage others quite frankly, a former mayor, a two-time former mayor, from getting back and getting involved. He's been rumored, Bill Schickel, I'll drop the name.
Yeah,
He's
I've heard
rumored
that
to get
one
involved,
myself.
and maybe this is a shot across the bow to say to Mr. Schickel to stay out of the race.
Yeah, I mean, strategically, to me, that's how I would read it. You know, it was a political junkie, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I have my people that are on my committee, which are normal, average, everyday people like ourselves.
Sure.
But I also have advisors. And, you know, they're people who have been involved in politics, involved with the city, you know, have done a lot for this town.
Sure.
But they don't necessarily want to be named as a committee member,
Mm-hmm.
but more or less, you know, as a personal advisor, as a consultant.
Certainly.
So now we have the incumbent who releases this, you know, page-long list of names.
2 paragraphs it took Mr. Skipper to articulate.
2 paragraphs worth of folks here in Mason City. You know, and quite honestly, you know, I can see, you know, those people that, you know, work as advisors for me, you know, they give me advice on economics or,
Certainly.
you know.
And you have, I won't name any names, but you have mentioned some of the folks that have given you advice, and it's quite an impressive, some of those names would quite frankly dwarf most of the names on Mr. Bookmeyer's list.
Yeah, one of them was a former economic development advisor down in the Quad Cities area who relocated out of Iowa but has kept in touch with me.
Certainly.
So he knows, you know, what it takes for a city to survive.
Right.
And he's given me a lot of food for thought and a lot of interesting, you know, articles and, you know, blogs and such from former mayors talking about what a city needs to survive in this day and age, what it needs to grow, you know, and what makes a city attractive to people to move into, you know, and that's a lot about what I want to do is I want to make Mason City more attractive for people to move into. More people in Mason City is obviously going to mean more revenue. It's going to bring more people into our schools. It's going to bring in more jobs.
Right.
You know, and a lot of my ideas have to deal with, you know, getting people to want to live in Mason City instead of, you know, say living like, I'll take my personal experience, for example. You know, I grew up in the Rockwell-Swelldale area.
Right.
My family's all from Clear Lake originally, and here in Mason City as well.
Okay.
2 reasons they didn't want me to come into town was, well, for one, the crime, and then also the education system.
Mm-hmm.
The education system has improved a lot here in Mason City. The problem with that is there's not as high as enrollment as there was back in the day, and that has to deal with our dwindling population.
Right.
That has to deal with jobs leaving town or jobs not necessarily coming into town.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and, you know, as someone who's, you know, looking for a good paying job myself, you know, I have that perspective where I want paying jobs here in town so that, you know, quite possibly I could get another well-paying job or, you know, another average Joe or, you know, I think it's important that we look at those things, you know, as to bring Mason City growth economically and also with, like I said, the dwindling population.
Of course. Well, Quinn, it's good to catch up with you here today and find out where you're at, and we appreciate at NIT hearing from you today and getting a perspective from you and a reaction to the mayor's announcement. And it looks like there could be more announcements in his future here, and we'll look for some more information coming from you in the near future about your campaign as well.
Yep. Like I said, you know, I've got everyday guy problems. So
yeah.
I'm working through those,
sure.
And you know I've had dozens of people come up to me and say, you know, what are you doing with your campaign? Why, you know, what are you doing to promote yourself as a candidate? You know, and I really haven't had a reason yet. You know, because first of all, nobody had announced other than Bookmeyer.
Yeah, right now you're still the lone gun right now, even as Mr. Bookmeyer supposedly explores. Maybe they're exploring whether his reputation can be repaired or not. I'm not sure, but what exactly they're doing here. But maybe he will elect not to run, and you may still be the lone man for the job.
It's possible, you know, in a perfect world.
Yeah. Well, best of luck to, as always, Quinn, to you and your campaign. And like I said, we'll be waiting to hear from you next, and we'll also be looking to see what the mayor and any other candidates may do in the future too.
Yeah, I mean, I welcome anybody to run for office. You know, I'm not worried. Obviously, I would like to get elected because I would like to make changes in Mason City. You know, but the more the merrier as far as, you know, I encourage people to get involved, whether it be to run or to support a candidate. And obviously, you know, if somebody, you know, wants to back me, then, you know, I'm open to that. And I'm also open to other people's perspective and ideas as well. You know, I'm not the type of person that's just going to make my mind up and say, hey, you know, that's how it is.
Sure.
You know, there's always new information that comes out that might change, you know, how I feel about a particular issue. You know, and I like to hear feedback. So hopefully, you know, some of your NIT readers out there, they hear this message, they agree with what I've got to say. You know, I encourage them to get a hold of me. I'll give you my email and phone number too.
Why don't you lay out your email and phone? If they hear this, we'll play this recording in its entirety on the site, and if people want to get involved, obviously you can go ahead and lay that on them right now.
Yeah, absolutely. My email address is just simply quinn.symonds@gmail.com. I'm sure you'll have the spelling of it on your site with my name.
Yeah.
And my telephone number is 641-512-2878. You know, I encourage anybody who either wants to offer help or has ideas or perspective, you know, or just wants to call me and tell me not to run. I did receive a letter like that with a $1 donation. That made my day, to be honest.
There's all kinds out there, isn't there, Quinn?
Yeah, and thanks to that guy for at least acknowledging my my candidacy.
Absolutely. Well, he knew you were running anyway. That's enough right there, right?
Absolutely. You know, as long as the message gets out, you know, job accomplished.
Thanks again, Quinn.
No problem.